Right, grade 10. So this is a Shark Tank program. You can see the initial cost is 500,000. So that's to set up the Shark Tank. And then your income for the first year is 75,000. Now remember, these two values are whatever the user enters. All right. So they want us to, every year, decrease your initial cost by your income. So you can see here, year one, the income 75, and that initial cost of 500,000 has been decreased by 75,000. Right. Thereafter, every year, you need to increase your income by 10%. Now remember, this is compounding. I think so. What I mean by that is increase the subsequent value every year by 10%. So initially 10% on 75,000, and then 10% on 82,500, and then 10% on 90,000. So that's what I mean. All right. Okay. And you're going to keep doing that, guys, until the balance goes below zero. So once that happens, instead of displaying that negative value, so you can see here the income for the fifth year is 109, the outstanding balance is 42. So if you had to say 42,000 minus 109,000, you'd get like negative 67 or something. But instead of displaying that negative 67,000, I want you to display the word paid off. So notice, guys, the operations that you are going to do are not many. As you can see here, if you take this first line, for instance, year one, income 75, balance 425. What changes from that year to year two? So firstly, the year changes. We increased it by 1. The income increases by 10% and the balance decreases by the income. So it's not a lot of operations that you have to do. You can see here, year increment, balance decrease, display year income and balance. Okay, that's displayed, so you go, all right, and then increase the income by 10%. So those are basically the operations, but they happen again and again and again and again until the balance goes below zero. Right, so we don't know exactly how many times we're going to have to run these operations until that condition is satisfied. And so we can use a while loop. All right. So I've broken it down further here. Inside your while loop, so while the R balance is greater than 0, you're going to complete these operations. Now these operations are color-coded and they correspond to those operations. So you guys can go check that out. So in order to increase the year, you just say inc. In order to decrease the balance by the income, you just say the balance is equal to what it was, and you subtract the income from that. Right, then I display it. And remember, it's formatted to currency in 2 decimal places, and the hashtag 9 is basically like a tab. Right, and then lastly, I increase the income by 10%. So in order to increase something by 10%, it's effectively 110%. So that's times 1.1. If you had it times by 1.2, that would be effectively 120%, or increasing something by 20%. 1.3, you'd increase it by 30%. I hope you guys understand that. Same with decreasing. If you decrease something by 10%, you'd multiply by 0.9. Because 1 represents a whole. Anything less than 1 means you've decreased it. Anything greater than 1 means you've increased it. If you want to decrease it by 20%, you'd multiply by 0.8. I hope you guys understand that. All right. The only catch is, guys, let's say your R balance gets to the point, let's say at line 6. So in other words, the 6th iteration of this loop, and R balance becomes negative 60,000. Look at your display here. It's still going to display that R balance here as negative 60,000, but the question clearly states that when it goes below 0, you should display the word paid off. So before you display, you need to add an if statement test. And I've placed that here at the bottom. Something like this. If the balance is less than 0, I want you to change this read out display slightly. So instead of displaying this balance, you're going to change that. I'm not going to help you there. You guys must figure that out. Else, so in other words, if you're still good on the balance, if the balance is still greater than 0, then you can just display this normal line here. So that's going to come here just below this else. All right, so there you display based on a condition. Right, you guys will notice I've formatted your red output so that those columns are nice and neat. And this is how you do it. So if you want 3 columns, you set the tab count to 2. 0, 1, and 2, that's 3. And then here you're setting the pixel width of each individual column. That way, when you display and you use the hashtag 9, your IO will automatically fall under the first column, your income under the second column, and your balance under the third column. It's just nice and neat instead of trying to use spaces and all that stuff. Alright guys, I hope that's understandable. Get to it. Alright, good luck guys.